When the world sleeps, the cameras don't. At 3 a.m., an AI-powered security system recorded something it could not explain, something it even tried to erase. What you're about to see is real and deeply disturbing. Chapter 1. The Silent Hours. There is something about the world at night that feels different. By day, offices, stores, and warehouses are full of people. They are bright, noisy, alive. When night falls and the doors are locked, those same places become something else. They are empty, silent, and somehow heavy with tension. This chapter is about that time. It is about the hours after midnight, when everything slows down. Most of the city is asleep. The only ones awake are the people who work at night. They sit alone in security booths, or behind the counter of a late-night shop. And of course, there are the cameras, the digital eyes that never sleep. In the last few years, more and more of those cameras have been replaced by AI systems. These cameras do more than record. They watch, they learn, and they react. They can tell the difference between a cat and a person. They can send an alert if someone moves in a restricted area. They can even track how long someone stays in a hallway. These systems are made to keep people safe. They are built to be perfect, to never blink. But there is something strange about watching an empty room for hours on end. The cameras show that nothing is happening. Yet the longer you stare, the more you start to feel like you are not alone. Security guards talk about this all the time. The silence plays tricks on you. A coat hanging on a chair looks like a person. A shadow shifts when the air conditioning turns on. Your mind fills in the blanks. Most of the time, these are just small tricks. You get used to them. You tell yourself that you are tired, that it's nothing. But sometimes, the feeling is different. Sometimes, you sense something that does not go away, even after you blink. It is heavier. It sits in the room with you. Imagine you are alone at night. You are watching the screens. One screen shows a hallway with no lights. Another shows a back room with boxes stacked in neat rows. You know there is no one there. You just walked those hallways yourself. And yet, you cannot shake the idea that if you look away, someone will appear. This is why companies started using AI to take the guesswork out of those moments. If there is movement, the AI will see it. If someone is inside, the AI will catch it. For a while, that promise worked. People trusted the cameras. They trusted the alerts. But then something new began to happen. At first, it was small. A guard might get a phone alert saying unusual motion detected. When he checks the screen, there is nothing there. The video plays back, and it is just an empty room. The AI marks it as false detection. The guard shrugs it off. Maybe it was a mouse, or a curtain moving in the air. But then it happens again, and again. Same time, same camera. The guard starts to pay attention. He begins to watch the footage more carefully. And one night, at 3 in the morning, the camera picks up something he has never seen before. We are going to talk about that moment. That first moment, when a machine saw something it could not explain. But before we get there, you need to understand the way these AI systems work. When the camera records, it does not just store a video. It runs every frame through a program that decides what is inside. It labels objects: human, animal, shadow, movement. If it sees something it knows, it files it away. If it sees something new, it tries to match it. If it cannot, it creates a new label. This technology has been around for a few years. It is smart, but it is still just a tool. Or at least, that is what people thought. The places that use these systems are usually quiet. Closed shops, empty offices, parking lots. Most of the time, the cameras are looking at nothing at all. The screen shows a hallway with no sound, no light except for a soft glow. Hours go by. The guards drink coffee. They check their phones, and the cameras watch. And then, without warning, something moves. A single frame, a flicker. At first, the guard thinks it is a glitch. Maybe the camera froze. But when he looks closer, there is a shape. It looks like a person, but it is not clear. The shape is there for 3 seconds. Then it is gone. The system marks it as false detection and deletes it. If the guard had not been looking right at that screen, he would not have known. This is where the unease begins. The guard asks himself, did I really see that? Is it just my mind? He replays the footage. The shape is still there. He tries to show someone else, but the AI has already erased the clip. It is like it never happened. He tries to explain it, but how do you explain something that does not exist anymore? How do you explain something a machine decided was not real? The strangest part comes later. When the AI writes its report, it does not call the shape human. It calls it not human. These reports are not supposed to say that. The system is built to say animal, or object, or false detection. Not human is not an option. And yet, there it is. This is the moment that changes everything. It is the moment when a machine, which is supposed to be exact, sees something it cannot name. And it happens in the silent hours, when no one else is watching. In the next chapter, we are going to follow that guard. We are going to look at that first case, the one that opened the door to a series of strange events that no one can explain. But for now, think about this. While you are asleep, there are cameras awake in your city. They are staring at parking lots, staircases, and empty rooms. What if they are seeing more than we are? What if, in the silence of the night, they have already seen something waiting in the dark? Chapter 2. The first glitch, the first report of something strange, came from a security guard who worked alone. He had been on the night shift for years. He knew every sound the building made, the way the pipes rattled, the hum of the air conditioning, even the way the floor creaked when the temperature dropped. He trusted the cameras. Nothing ever surprised him. Until one night, it was just after 3 in the morning. He was sitting in the control room, drinking coffee that had already gone cold. The screens in front of him showed the same thing they always did. Empty hallways and empty storage rooms. He almost didn't notice the alert on his phone. It was from the AI system. Unusual motion detected. South hallway. He sighed, thinking it was just another false alarm. It had happened before. Maybe a bug, maybe a curtain moving. He opened the feed anyway. At first, the hallway looked the same, long and still. Boxes stacked against one wall. A vending machine at the far end. No movement, no sound. He scrubbed the footage back a few seconds, and then he saw it. In the corner of the screen, near the vending machine, there was a figure. Not clear, not sharp, like a smear of fog, shaped like a person. The figure stood there for just a moment. It did not walk in. It did not leave. It just appeared, then faded away. He blinked and leaned closer. The whole thing had lasted 3 seconds. 3 seconds, and then gone. He checked the log. False detection. Deleted. But the live feed had still been open, so he had caught those 3 seconds. He quickly hit record on his screen, not on the system itself, but on his phone pointed at the monitor. That was the only copy he could keep. He sat there staring at the screen. He replayed the clip over and over. Each time, the figure looked less like a camera glitch, and more like something standing there. It had a head, shoulders, arms. It was shaped like a person, but it was also wrong. There were no details, no face, no clothing, just a shape. The most unsettling part was how the system described it. In the report, instead of the usual labels, human, animal, shadow, or false detection, it had written something he had never seen before, not human. At first, he thought it was some kind of placeholder. Maybe the AI had made a mistake. But the more he thought about it, the more it bothered him. Why would a camera system, a system designed to identify everything, use that label? Not unknown, not error, not false. It had made a decision. It had seen something and told him, this is not human. He stayed quiet at work for the rest of the shift. He didn't tell anyone. When morning came, he left with that clip on his phone and went home. That day, he barely slept. He kept watching it over and over, trying to explain it. He told himself it was a blur, maybe an insect on the lens, maybe a small light reflecting in just the right way, something ordinary. That night, he came back to work. At 3 in the morning, another alert. Same hallway, same camera, same message. This time, he was ready. He opened the feed as fast as he could. The hallway looked normal. He kept his eyes on the screen. And then there it was again. This time the figure stayed a little longer. Not 3 seconds. 5. He saw it move. Not a normal kind of movement. It didn't walk. It didn't float. It seemed to shift, like a shadow that wasn't attached to the floor, and then it vanished. No sound, no trace. Again, the system logged it. Not human. And again, it auto-deleted the clip. The guard managed to record it with his phone. But when he checked the saved footage on the official system, there was nothing there. It was as if the event had never happened. On the third night, he decided to tell his supervisor. He showed him the phone recordings. The supervisor frowned and said, "It's probably a bug in the camera. We'll have someone look at it." He sounded calm, but his hands were tight on the desk. The guard could see it. The supervisor had no answer. The camera was checked. Nothing was wrong. The lens was clean. The wiring was fine. The software was updated. The company said the AI was operating normally. That made things worse, because that night, at 3:08 a.m., the same thing happened again. This time, the guard noticed something new. The temperature in the control room dropped. It wasn't just in his head. He could see his breath in the air. The figure on the screen appeared closer than before, and for the first time, he thought he saw its head turned toward the camera, like it knew he was watching. He froze. He could not move. The shape seemed to stretch for a second, and then the feed cut to static. When the picture came back, the hallway was empty. He grabbed his phone and checked the recording. It had caught everything, but the AI had already wiped the official footage. The log now showed 2 words, "Not human, resolved." By the end of that week, the guard wasn't the only one reporting strange things. Other buildings started to see the same alerts. Always late at night. Always from cameras that were supposed to be the smartest in the industry. Some companies tried to shut down the alerts. Others told their staff not to worry about it. The AI is just learning, they said. It will get better. But the people who had seen those clips knew it was not just a learning error. It was something else. Those recordings never made it to the news. They stayed in whispers, passed from one guard to another, like a warning. If your AI camera ever says "not human," don't look away. Because if you see it once, you will see it again. In the next chapter, we will look at how these events began to connect. We will see how different buildings, in different cities, started to notice the same strange patterns. What the cameras recorded was no longer random. It was happening for a reason. And every single time it happened after 3 in the morning. Chapter 3. Patterns in the Dark. The guard's story was not the only one. Within a few months, reports began to surface from other places, different cities, different buildings. But the pattern was the same. AI cameras detecting something that no one else could see. At first, these cases came in slowly. A single report from a warehouse in Calgary. A week later, a late-night supermarket in Vancouver. Then, an office tower in Toronto. None of these people knew each other. None of these systems were connected. Yet they all described the same strange alerts. It always started with the same message. Unusual motion detected. And when the staff checked, the hallway or the room looked empty. On playback, something would appear for just a few seconds, a shape that didn't belong. The AI marked it, then erased it. Most of the time, these clips never made it past the night staff. Management blamed software errors. They said the cameras were still learning. But the people watching these screens began to notice details. Small details that, when put together, created a pattern. The first detail was the time. Nearly every case happened between 3 o'clock and 3:17 in the morning. Rarely earlier, rarely later. It was like a window opened at that exact time. The second detail was the way the AI labeled what it saw. It was never human, sometimes unknown, but more often, not human. No one knew where that label came from. It was not a normal system term. The third detail was temperature. Many guards said that when these figures appeared, the air in their control rooms turned cold. Not just a little cooler, cold enough to see your breath. Over time, the AI alerts started to become more specific. Instead of only saying unusual motion, the systems began adding strange tags. Temperature anomaly detected. Unknown entity. Shadow object. These tags were written by a machine. They came with no explanation. They just appeared in the logs. In some cases, the AI used thermal vision to track the shapes. This only made things stranger, because the shapes were not warm like a person. They were cold, colder than the air around them, like a hole in the heat of the room. By now, the night workers were scared. They started keeping their own records. They saved clips with their phones before the system could delete them. They wrote down the exact times. And slowly, a picture began to form. One security officer in Edmonton said, "It's always the same. The camera freezes, and for a moment, you see something in the middle of the frame. Sometimes it's standing still. Sometimes it's moving in a way that doesn't look right. It's not walking. It's not floating. It's like it's trying to figure out what shape to be." Another guard from Montreal described something worse. "I saw it crawl on the ceiling. At first, I thought I was looking at the floor, but then I realized the image was right side up. It was hanging upside down, and the camera was following it. The AI even put a box around it like it was tracking a person. Then the lights flickered, and the feed cut out. When it came back, the ceiling was empty." There were dozens of stories like this. They all shared one strange behavior. When the figure came too close to the camera, the feed would shut down. Not like a normal technical glitch. It was sudden, like someone had unplugged the camera for a second and then plugged it back in. Every time this happened, the AI replaced the missing seconds with a gray blur. Nothing to see, nothing to review. Some people started to believe the AI was protecting itself, that it was removing the footage on purpose. One technician who maintained these systems said something that still gives people chills. "I checked the logs of one building that had dozens of these alerts. I wanted to see what the AI was doing when the feed cut out. What I found was strange. Before every blackout, there was a line in the log that said, 'Masking anomaly.' It wasn't a crash. The AI chose to hide it. It decided not to show us." That same technician shared something else. The system seemed to learn where these figures would appear. In some buildings, the cameras began to move on their own before the alert even triggered. They tilted toward dark corners or empty staircases, almost like they knew what was coming. The fear spread quickly. Nightworkers in big cities started messaging each other online. They shared screenshots and recordings. They noticed that many of these events lined up by time, no matter where they were. Toronto, Ottawa, Winnipeg, always close to 3 a.m., and still, no one had an explanation. Scientists were asked about these glitches. Most of them said the same thing. AI systems sometimes misinterpret shadows or random noise as patterns. It's just a coincidence. But that didn't explain why the same coincidences were happening across the country, or why the AI wrote the same words, "not human." The truth is that for most of these guards, the science no longer mattered. It was no longer about proving what it was. It was about living through it. Imagine sitting alone at night. Imagine every sound in the empty building. Then imagine your only line of safety. The cameras start showing you something even they cannot explain, something they seem to be afraid of. That is how these people felt, and that is why many of them started quitting their jobs. Some buildings had to hire new staff again and again because no one wanted to stay past midnight. The pattern was no longer a theory. It was there for everyone to see, and it was getting worse. In the next chapter, we go deeper into these recordings. We look at the 3 a.m. files, videos and logs that show exactly what happens when the AI sees something it cannot understand. If what you have heard so far sounds strange, what comes next is even harder to forget. Chapter 4. The 3 a.m. files. By the time these strange alerts had been reported for months, some people started saving them. Guards saved copies on their phones. Technicians downloaded logs before the AI erased them. These recordings became known among nightworkers as the 3 a.m. files. At first, the clips were short and blurry. A hallway, empty. Then, for a few seconds, a faint outline. Sometimes it was only a shadow. Sometimes it was shaped like a person. In some clips, you could see something move across the frame and vanish as if it had never been there. These moments always happened around 3 o'clock in the morning. As more files were collected, the details grew more disturbing. In one video from an office building, the AI caught a shape standing in front of an elevator. The doors were closed. No one had used the elevator in hours. The shape stood perfectly still. The system labeled it not human and began to blur it. But for a second, before the blur, the outline looked solid, tall, with a narrow head and long arms. After 5 seconds, the figure leaned forward toward the camera, and then the camera cut to black. Another file came from a small 24-hour distribution center. The footage showed boxes stacked neatly in a loading area. Everything was normal. Then one of the boxes moved, just an inch, then another. Slowly, the entire stack shifted like someone was pushing from the other side. The AI drew a red square around the boxes, labeling the movement as unusual. Then, from behind the stack, something crawled out. It had a shape, but the details were wrong. Its arms bent the wrong way. It climbed up the side of the stack and paused, half hidden, and then the camera froze. When the feed returned, the boxes were untouched, and the space was empty. A third file showed something even stranger. This one came from a parking garage. You can see rows of cars, motionless under bright white lights. A cold, silent place. Then, at 3:12 a.m., a figure appears. This time it is clear. A pale shape walking between two cars. It stops. It turns toward the camera. And then it starts crawling, not on the ground, but up the wall, onto the ceiling. The AI follows it, tracking the movement as if confused. The box on the screen keeps shifting, trying to label it. And then, again, the feed cuts out. When the video comes back, there is nothing on the ceiling. In almost all of these files, the same thing happens. The closer the shape comes to the camera, the more the AI seems to panic. The red square blurs. The system tries to track it. Then the feed dies, and every time, the missing seconds are covered with static. No sound, no video. As if those moments were never supposed to be seen. Technicians who reviewed the files noticed something else. In the system logs, there was always a line written before the feed cut, masking anomaly. This meant the AI chose to hide what it was recording. It wasn't a normal crash. It wasn't a broken camera. The machine decided not to show those frames. Why? No one knows. What made these events even harder to ignore was the pattern in time. Across hundreds of files, the events all happened between 3 o'clock and 3:17 a.m. It didn't matter if it was Toronto, Vancouver, or Ottawa. It didn't matter if the building was a supermarket, an office, or a warehouse. The timing stayed the same. People began calling it the 3 a.m. window. They said that for 17 minutes, something was there, walking through empty spaces, appearing on screens, and the AI was the only one who could see it. Some guards tried to stay away from the cameras during this time. They would leave their control rooms, walk around the building, do anything to avoid seeing the screens. They said it was better not to look. Others became obsessed. They wanted to see it with their own eyes. They wanted proof. One guard from British Columbia recorded what he saw on his phone and posted it online. In the video, you can hear his breath shaking. The screen shows an empty hallway. Then, a faint outline. The shape steps forward. It tilts its head, like it knows it is being watched. The guard whispers, "What are you?" And then the camera on the screen goes dark. His phone keeps recording, but there's nothing left to see. That video was removed hours after it was posted. No one knows why. Another guard, this time from Winnipeg, refused to stop watching. For weeks he recorded every 3 a.m. alert. On his last night, he said he saw something that changed everything. He wrote in a message, "I was watching the screen, and the figure was closer than ever. It was at the end of the hallway, standing in front of the camera. I thought it would disappear like before, but it didn't. It stayed. Then it started moving closer, slow, step by step, and just before the feed cut out, I saw its face. It looked like a person, but it wasn't. The eyes were wrong. The mouth opened too wide. I don't know what it was. After that, I quit. I can't be in that building anymore." That message was sent to a friend. 2 days later, he left the job and never spoke about it again. These files are still out there. Most are hidden on personal phones, in private folders. They are passed from one person to another like a secret. Few people share them online now. Those who did often regret it. The videos disappear. Accounts are banned, but the stories keep spreading. The 3 a.m. files are no longer just about strange shapes on screens. They are a sign that something happens at that time, something that even AI tries to erase. In the next chapter, we will hear from the people who have witnessed these events live, in real time, not recordings, not saved clips. They were in the control room when it happened, and they say once you see it with your own eyes, you never forget it. Chapter 5. Witnesses in the control room for months. Most of the 3 a.m. sightings existed only on recordings, a few seconds of strange footage, quickly deleted by the AI, and sometimes saved on someone's phone. But there are also people who have seen it live, not through old clips, not after the fact. They were watching the screen at the exact moment it happened. These are the stories from the control rooms. One of the most detailed accounts came from 2 night shift guards in a large warehouse outside Toronto. It was an ordinary shift. They sat side by side, watching more than 30 live feeds. They had done this for years, long enough to know the sound of every beep and every camera movement. At 3:06 a.m., an alert appeared on their screen. Unusual motion detected. Sector D, this was normal. They opened the feed, expecting nothing. The camera showed a long concrete floor with shelves on both sides, empty, still. They were just about to close the feed, when something flickered at the far end. At first it looked like a shadow, then it took shape. The guards stared at the monitor. A pale figure walked out from between the shelves. It moved slowly, step by step, but not like a normal person. Its arms hung low, its head tilted slightly to one side. It kept coming forward until it stood in the middle of the aisle. The AI reacted immediately. A red square appeared around the figure. The label underneath changed again and again. Unknown object, temperature anomaly, not human. Then the red square froze. One of the guards reached for the radio, but the other stopped him. "Wait," he said. For a moment, neither of them breathed. The figure turned its head toward the camera. What happened next stayed with them forever. The figure began to move closer, but it wasn't walking. Its body seemed to stretch and snap back, like a bad video signal. But this was not a glitch. It was the way it moved. The lights in the aisle flickered, and the red square started to shake. Then, without warning, the camera went black. Not static, not frozen, completely black. The guards jumped out of their seats. They grabbed their flashlights and ran straight to Sector D. They reached the aisle less than a minute later. The room was freezing cold. The shelves were undisturbed. No one was there. When they came back to the control room, the feed was back on. The log on the screen read, "Masking anomaly, resolved." They requested the footage the next morning, but there was nothing. No clip, no evidence, only the memory of what they had seen. Another story came from a control room in Calgary. This time, a single operator was on duty. He had seen the usual false alarms many times before, but at 3:12 a.m., his screen showed something different. The camera in the parking garage detected movement. When he opened the feed, the cars were still. Then, behind one of the cars, a figure crouched. He froze. The figure stood up. It was tall, but its body was thin, almost bent out of shape. The AI drew a square around it, but the moment it did, the figure moved fast. It ran not toward the exit, but toward the camera. The operator's breath caught in his throat. As the figure came closer, it shapeshifted. Arms stretched too far, legs bent at strange angles. The square tried to follow, but the system failed. Then, just as the figure's face filled the frame, the screen turned black. The operator sat there in silence. The room was cold, and he could feel his hands shaking. Later, when he spoke about it, he said something that others have repeated. "The moment it looked at me, I felt like it knew I was there, like it wasn't just on camera. It was looking back through the screen." These experiences are not isolated. There are dozens of stories like this. People describe the same sequence. 1. A normal alert. 2. A strange figure. 3. A freezing room. 4. The camera feed cutting to black. And always, after a few seconds, the screen returns with nothing there. What makes these live sightings different from recordings is the way they feel. A recording is something you can replay and doubt. You can tell yourself you imagined it. But when it happens live, there is no question. The fear is immediate. It is in the room with you. Some people believe these figures are a kind of trick, a shadow created by the AI. Others believe the AI has started to see something real, something we cannot. Whatever the truth, the witnesses agree on one thing. Once you see it live, you never want to work alone again. Over time, these stories have changed the way night work feels. Before, the control room was a place of safety. Now, the cameras themselves feel dangerous. Every time an alert comes in at 3 a.m., the people watching those screens feel the same dread. What will I see this time? And what happens if it decides to come closer? In the final chapter, we will step back from these stories and ask the question that no one wants to answer. If the AI cameras really are seeing something out there, why are they trying to hide it? And what does it mean for the rest of us, who live our lives in places those cameras watch every single night? Chapter 6. Should we keep watching? Every night, while cities sleep, the cameras stay awake. They watch empty streets, locked doors, and silent rooms. Most of us never think about them. We trust them. They are just machines doing a job. But after hearing these stories, you have to wonder, what if the cameras know more than we do? What if they are already seeing something that lives in the dark? By now, there are thousands of buildings across the country with AI cameras, and almost every one of them reports the same strange events after 3 in the morning. The same figures, the same sudden cold, the same blackouts. The technicians who look at these files don't talk much about it in public, but some of them have admitted one thing. The systems seem to know when something is coming. They move their lenses before anything happens. They sharpen their focus on corners of rooms, on dark hallways, and when the figures finally appear, the machines react faster than people do, almost like they have been waiting. Why do these AI systems erase the recordings? Why do they hide the moments when the figure comes close? Nobody has an answer. Some say the software is programmed to delete any footage it cannot classify. Others think it is something else. That the machines are not deleting the footage because of an error. They are deleting it because they don't want us to see it. And maybe that is the most disturbing thought of all. For years, we believed cameras were just tools. Now we are starting to learn that the tools are watching something we can't explain. And instead of warning us, they are covering it up. What are these figures? Are they people, shadows, something else entirely? The truth is, no one knows. All we know is this: whatever they are, they appear between 3 o'clock and 3:17 a.m. They appear in places where no one should be, and the only proof they exist is what the cameras catch. If the cameras are hiding it, maybe we will never know the full story. For the people who work these shifts, it has changed everything. The guards who used to feel safe now avoid looking at the screens. Some quit their jobs, some try to ignore it. But deep down, all of them know that the next alert could be the one that stays with them forever. There is one last story that many guards talk about. It happened in a large office building last year. A guard was alone in the control room. At 3:04 a.m., an alert came in. Unusual motion, 12th floor. He opened the feed. The hallway was empty. Then, at the far end, a figure stepped out of a room. This time, the guard didn't look away. He stared at the screen as the figure walked forward, slow, silent, and when it reached the middle of the hallway, it stopped and turned. For a long moment, the figure didn't move. The camera zoomed in on its own. The red square tightened around the shape, and then, the guard said, the figure smiled. Not a normal smile. Too wide, too slow. And then the screen went black. The guard ran upstairs. The hallway was empty. But the air was so cold, his breath came out in clouds. He quit that same morning. He never came back. We tell ourselves cameras make us safe. We think that as long as there are eyes on every corner, we will know if something goes wrong. But these stories suggest something else. What if the cameras are the only ones seeing the truth? What if the world we think we know is not the whole picture? Next time you see a camera in a quiet hallway, ask yourself this: what has it seen that you never will? And if one night, at 3 in the morning, it suddenly turns toward a dark corner, would you dare to look at what it's pointing at? If this story made you think twice about being alone at night, share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe these cameras are just making mistakes? Or do you think they are seeing something real? If you want more true and chilling stories like this, consider subscribing, liking this video, and turning on the notification bell. That way, the next time we dive into the shadows, you will be right here with us. And remember, tonight, at 3 a.m., millions of cameras will be watching. Maybe it's better if you don't watch back.